GM, everyone. Welcome to our panel. We want to test your micro.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So I'm happy to be the moderator of this panel. I'm Leo, leading the DeFi at Axelar, the leading bridge and interoperable solution in this industry. So we are so fortunate to have three experts in this kind of institutional financing DeFi world. So let me introduce each one of them. So we have Jack from the Bay Current Consulting. You want to do the quick intro?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jack from Baker Consulting, Japanese listed publicly listed company consulting firm in Japan, and we're providing the Web3 blockchain strategy and IT consulting to the Japanese listed company. Yeah, thank you.
And we also have a Jacelynn from ChainUp.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Jacelynn from ChainUp. ChainUp actually is a global digital asset solution company. So we service more than 500 crypto exchanges to date. Yep, that's all.
And last one will be Chloe from the RuleWise solution.
Hi everyone, I'm Chloe. So I'm the compliance expert in the Web3 space. We provide a strategic planning for legal and compliance for Web3 companies.
Okay, sounds good, sounds good. Thanks for joining us for this panel. And we all know that Asia is one of the most dynamic regions for the financing, for the DeFi, digital assets. And I see forward leading the hubs like Singapore, maybe Hong Kong, and maybe the Korean are positioning themselves as a global leader. Where other jurisdictions, maybe other countries are taking a more cautious or more restrictive stance. So I want to know your perspective. Do you foresee that Asia is moving toward a more greater regulator alignment, or maybe you will foresee we will continue to see have this kind of a jurisdiction fragmentation? Perhaps maybe Jack, we want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I can share some information about the Japanese stablecoin and the crypto legal opinions. So actually, 2 years ago, 2023, the Japanese has we call Payment Service Act to how to say regulated all the crypto parts. So actually, recently, stablecoin is very popular in Japan, and recently a lot of trust banks are issuing the stablecoins now. So they are all regulated by this PSA, Payment Service Act. And we are also, the Japanese government is still discussing to move the crypto part to the FIEA, the Security Law Act, we call it the Security Act. So, but this is still under discussion. We are, we are thinking that the next year in the autumn or the fall, we'll pass the crypto FIEA Act in the next year, so yeah.
And do you want to jump in or?
Yeah, I think I'll drop in certain information. I come from Singapore, and Singapore is somewhere that is very restrictive towards crypto, but restrictive and, trying to build a safe environment as well. I believe that, in the entire realm of Asia, when we're looking at it, a lot of the Southeast Asian countries, they are actually learning from one another. And also they're actually building a lot of sandboxes to make sure that things are working together. So to me, it's very important for the alignment globally in terms of regulations, because that is where, they work towards a cohesive way like what TradFi did before.
Yeah, so I'm actually based in Australia, but I work in some major exchanges, so they operate globally. So I can share a bit more from not just one country, but globally and especially in Asia. So right now in Asia, there's 3 tiers. So first, that tier is like a strictly restricted, like mainland China. So there's nothing you can do there. So the second tier is they have some sort of regulation or licensing region. For example, like in Taiwan, they have the AML registration, but there's no proper licensing schemes here. But you can do certain things, but there are also a lot of things in the gray area. So the third layer is they have a more clear regulations like in Hong Kong and Singapore. So for those, I think based on your company, which stage you are. So if you are just a startup and then you don't want to go through the very long process license application, like the license we just discussed in Singapore, that's probably gonna take 3 to 4 years. So if you're just a startup, you probably don't want to start in that country first, because 3 or 4 years, you're just waiting for the license and you cannot do anything. So you may want to explore in some areas they have less requirement, or they have give you some space to explore and then to test your products and then properly expand your team and then go into this market with proper license registration and those regions. So that's like that really depends on what's your company, what stage you are, and what's your plan. But eventually, I think in Asia, it will be more moving towards like Singapore or Hong Kong, where we need a proper license and proper compliance team. So that's definitely the big trend.
Okay, so you all mentioned that different countries have different regulation, that's right. But if an institution want to build a multi-jurisdiction operation, get into the multiple different markets, they have to face quite a difficult and different standards around maybe KYC, MNL, or maybe a custodial when trying to do some localization. So my opinion is that the big challenge is trying to strike a balance between the local rules and building quite a scalable and a framework for the cross-border compliance and the risk management. So I want to hear what you think about it. If it's something work around with your partner or your clients over the past months or maybe years. So maybe Chloe, want to go first this time?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think that's a very good question. I think that's a question a lot of companies are facing at the moment. Because for Web3, we're not like the TradFi. You just like limit yourself in a specific region. So when you build it, it's normally faced to multiple countries, and different countries have different standards like KYC, MLL, and even just some small things. If you just build each system based on each country, it's a lot of resource will be required to operate, to maintain, to build. So my practical experience is that normally the companies, they will have the core team. So even if for KYC, ML, there's a core things which are very similar in each country. Like KYC, you need to have your name, date of birth. So these are things like is the same in every country. So you can build the core team, have the core requirement. So and then have the local team based on each country's requirement, and then have a very small team locally, depends on what your market need and in that country, and then you just have a small local team to operate and to fulfill the local requirements. So in that way, you have a central team that can process, and you have you can focus all your resource on the core team. And then when you expand to a new market and based on the new requirement, and then you put new resource to the local market. So normally, my experience, if you just have a very functional core team, and then in the local team, you probably need just 1 or 2 people to start with, which is more affordable than just have a local team everywhere.
Yeah. I agree with Chloe. I think, having very agile teams is very important. From a ChainUp perspective, I think having a very agile structure and infrastructure is also very important. So I think in certain regions and different countries, they have different needs and also requirements for the custodian, for example, how to actually segregate your clients' funds, and also, the need for a certain percentage or proportion of your funds to be in the warm, hot, and cold wallet, right? So there are a lot of all these things that, of course, if the infrastructure itself is very rigid and not scalable, then, it's not enough for them to actually scale worldwide, globally, and not to even say it's just Asia. So what is happening right now is that all the different infrastructure that we have are very modular, so they kind of like come in with the different structures. So for example, let's say if you are in certain countries that need and require things like the hot, warm, and cold wallet, we would have certain integrations for this. But again, if you are operating in certain countries that do not need that, we would actually remove them. So these are very important points. So for example, like even for Forexes, what they are getting into crypto exchanges, they also face places where they only allow spot trading, and some of them do not allow futures trading. And then what can they do with that? Because if you have an infrastructure that must always have the spot and futures trading on, then that means that your infrastructure is not kind of like modular enough. So that is something that is very important. So on top of that, I also would like to add on to what Chloe has just mentioned. I think some of our clients, we do see that they actually imply and have different MLROs as well. So they have their core team, and in the different regions and specific jurisdictions, they actually have an appointed MLRO to actually look into the money laundering part of things, because that is what usually the regulators are most concerned about.
Yeah, okay. About the KYC and KYB, I think it's very pretty good done in Japan now, and I want to talk about more about the AML and CFT things rules in Japan. So actually, in 2023 June, Japan enforced the FATF travel rule to all the crypto asset service providers like the VASPs. So they have to provide apply the travel rules. So. But it is very hard for these investor or token holders to use these crypto exchange services because there are a lot of we need to apply a lot of things and explain the money is clear, is clean, it's not the something bad money. So yeah. About the custody rules, so the Japan exchanges require that to hold the customer's assets in a cold wallet and separate it the company owned money and the client money, and the client money crypto assets must had a trust in the cold wallet or the trust companies. So and the third one is about the entity separation. So actually, in Japan, the crypto exchange has their license, and recently the stablecoin things, we have another license called EPI, the Electronic Payments Instruments. This is also a new license for the stablecoins. So if you want to issue or trading the stablecoins, you need to get the second one, the EPI license. And third is about the security token. If you want to issue the RWAs, we call RWAs, like the rates or something else, you need to have FIEA, the Financial Instrument and Exchange Act license. So if you don't have this license, you cannot do the things like the security token or the exchange. They are all separated. So if you want to do the crypto things in Japan, you need to follow all the Japanese regulations in Japan. Yeah.
Can I just quickly add something? So we discussed the product. So this is kind of like a tips for anyone who is building different product for different regions. So one thing I encountered, because when you build a products, and then normally in different regions they have different requirements, you need to make modifications. So for example, certain features in certain region is not available, and is available in other regions. So how you can make it more function and easier to manage. So that going to the root of like when you're doing the KYC. So let's say in Taiwan, and there's a certain product A is available, but let's say in Japan, product A is not available. So how can you determine whether a user is a Japanese user or a Taiwanese user? So that's way back to the KYC. So because I did a massive a cleanup work for one exchanges. So once you have done all this and you have to recategorize your user, is really painful. So for anyone is right now start building the products, I would suggest to do this from the beginning. So once you do the KYC, you have to determine how to categorize this user, which region this user is belong to, so that in the future, once you build the products and you know which product is available in which region, you can easily apply that. So that when the regulator, hopefully no one get approached by regulator, and then you can show them how you take reasonable steps to determine your user and determine which product is suitable for which region.
Yeah, let me just add one more point. I think something that is important is that, some of the things probably you don't really need to build it yourself. For example, if you go for RegTech solutions, they actually specialize in global compliance. They specialize in the global rules. So they would already have all the different solutions for the different jurisdictions that you're looking for. So, it's better to have a trusted somebody who is the subject matter expert for regulations and compliance, and you put it into your solution, and that actually saves up a lot of cost and time as well.
Yeah, I also want to mention one thing is it is very hard for one single project to apply all the jurisdictions regulations in the same way. So for example, like the Circle USDC, they are issued on the public chain, but in Japan, they need to follow because they don't put their money in the Japanese trust bank. So there is a money thing. So the Japanese government regulated circle that you can only you can only mint or burn or transfer under the 1 million yen value of the USDC. So it is very hard for USDC to make market or go to market to do under this regulation. So even like the company like Circle is very hard to follow the same regulations in the different jurisdiction. It's also for every project to follow all the things. Something like the stablecoin issuer. Recently I work with the Hong Kong projects or the companies to work. We want to issue some stablecoins to using as the cross-border between the Japan and Hong Kong. But Hong Kong regulator, they said that all the stablecoins holders need to be in the KYC wallet. So it is very hard for using in the non-custodian wallet like the MetaMask or something else. So, but Japan is okay about this. So it is very different regulation. So even when you want to issue the stablecoin, it's very hard to follow all the rules in the different jurisdiction. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And you guys already maybe talk more about my next question, actually, how to onboard the institution and how to support the institution to get into Web3. Because I think we all know that onboarding an institution is some kind of buzzword in the Web3 over the past months. Everybody is talking, we want to serve the institution, we want to provide institution, create a service, SaaS, blah, blah, blah. So I think, but in my opinion, it's just like you say already, there's a lot of maybe the critical, the blocker, and the bottleneck for the institutional to get into the Web3, no matter from the regular side or maybe from other technical side. So I want to get your perspective. What kind of the biggest compliance or maybe infrastructure blocker existing right now for the institution to get into the Web3? Maybe Jacelynn, why you want to go first for this one?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest blockers that we see worldwide, not just in Asia, is actually licensing. So a lot of people, they may have the structure itself, but it is not enough because you need to have the license. The license right now is not an insurance, right? In the previous years, license is something that you get only when the regulators come up to your door and they knock at your door and say, hey guys, look, you do not have a license. Are you going to get a license? And then you get it. So it's a bit more passive. But for now, if you're going to the different jurisdictions, it is best that you check with whatever rules and regulations that they have, because if not, they will come and knock at your door and no chances might be given to you. So now licensing is one of the biggest pain point. I think even for a lot of the exchanges as well, they actually meet with, they made it very painful. It's very painful for them. The reason being, they wanted to load themselves onto Google Play Store and so on and so forth. And they were blocked. Why were they blocked? Because they do not have a license. So previously they do think that, probably I don't really need a license because I'm just going to put on there. But right now, even Google Play Store, they really need that license as well. So licensing is something that is very important. So like I said, like for example, when we talk about the different infrastructure, it is actually not that difficult because for the infrastructure, as long as you build it modularly, you can actually change things very quickly as well. So that is how we have been, adapting to all the very major changes to, for example, Indonesian rules. Right now, Vietnam and Cambodia, they're coming up very strongly as well, even though the actual legislation is not out yet. Even in other countries, when what we are looking at, a lot of times when they talk about, for example, doing P2P, right, all these banking services and the backup from the banks is also very important. And I think that is one of the biggest blockers as well, because a lot of times when they want to get, like for example, a good rate from the bank or even something like integration with the bank, it is actually very, very difficult. So these are very major blockers compared to the technology itself. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm so glad Jacelynn mentioned that the licensing right now is the blocker, because when I first joined the industry back in 2018, it's more like a Wild West, and everybody just do whatever they want, and then they have the attitude that when the regulator come and catch me, then I start doing something. So that's the mentality back then. But I think right now is a very different environment because each country has introduced a new regulation, the licensing requirement. And then if you don't comply, and then you basically will be kicked out from the market and get fined or even in jail. So right now, I think licensing has become more and more important. And that's why when you start planning where you're going to be launched, the licensing is definitely one of the first things you have to consider. And also getting license, I always tell the company, getting license is just really the step one. So once you get the license, normally they have quite a lot of obligations, ongoing obligations for you to keep the license. I have seen so many companies, they get the license, get very excited, launch the products maybe 1 month later. And then 3 months later, the regulator says, hey, show me how you comply with the licensing obligation. They could not show anything because they thought they got license, they can do whatever they want. Again, that's not the case. So once you get the license, you need to you have to commit to all the resource and then to the effort to comply with the obligation. Because once you get license and you lose it, it's really hard to get the trust back, and you probably won't be able to continue to in this market anymore. So that's my advice to any companies. So first, getting the license, and second, really study and understand your license, what you can do, what you cannot do, and what you need to do to keep the license. So that's on the licensing part. And on the onboarding, I have been on both the exchange side and also on the company side who want to onboard. So for onboarding, one of the things is right now, especially for KYB, it's kind of everybody decides their own rules. So if you, let's say, onboard some major exchanges, they have their standard. But if you go to some smaller ones, they have a totally different standards, and you have to prepare some new set of a document again, which is also very painful. And then for the onboarding, another part is a lot of the onboarding, they set up they just follow what the bank said. So the bank, they have a standard which has been followed for more than 200 years. And then all the documents, all the things they need does not apply to Web3. So I have seen some of my clients come and ask me, what are those? They ask for source of funds, source for wealth, but I'm only trading in the exchange. How can I prove that? And then the bank does not accept that. So, and they only accept some accountant, the certified financial statement. But for a lot of Web3 companies, they don't have that. And so that they cannot onboard to the bank or for the TradFi. Likewise, for the TradFi want to onboard Web3, they will be very surprised. That's only the things that you need. And because for some of the Web3 companies, I saw their onboarding probably only have 7 questions, which is good for the user experience, but for compliance, I'm seriously concerned. So when for traditional institutions, they want to onboard these kind of companies, they will be concerned. If this is kind of your requirement, I don't really trust you can do a proper job. So I think right now is kind of in a dilemma. And on the one hand, the company need to set up the proper KYB and onboarding process so that it complies with regulation and the requirement. But on the other hand, it had to be practical, to suitable for all the industries.
Yeah, about the institutional onboarding bottlenecks, I think that it depends on what kind of companies you are. So if you are just an investment company, so you just want to buy some Bitcoin, Ethereum, it is very easy for you. You can buy these cryptos in Japan. You only need to follow the accounting rules, and when you make profit, you pay the tax, it's okay. So, but if you want to provide services in Japan, it depends on what kind of services you want to provide. Something like if you want to do the exchange things, you need to get license from the, exchange license. So there's only 28, 29 licensed exchanges in Japan now, and recently a lot of, the very famous global exchanges are onboarding in Japan now. So because the next year, as I mentioned before, at the next year, the law, the act in Japan will change. So we are thinking that we can, cut the tax from the up to max to the 55% to the 20% about the capital gain. So it will be a lot of people in Japan will trading the crypto from the next year. So a lot of, global exchanges are, onboarding the Japanese market now. So about if you are not a crypto exchange, you are how to say stablecoin issuer like the Circle. You also need to get the license like the license I mentioned, the electronic payment instruments. So when you get that, you can issue or maybe you can how to say the trading, the exchange, the stable coins in Japan. So that is another license you need to get if you want to do the stablecoin business in Japan. And if you also want to do how to say if you want to issue the security token like the rates or the how to say the MMF, something like this. If you want to do something like this, you need to get the traditional the FIEA license, the financial instrument license. So yeah, it is about the license. And one more bottleneck about the companies doing business in Japan, it will be the custodian. So until now, there's no how to say custodian license in Japan now. So if you want to do the crypto custodian, most of the companies are how to say put their crypto to the crypto exchange, like the famous company called Meta Planet, a very famous company who bought a lot of BTC in Japan. They put their all BTC in SBI group, one SBI VC Trade and one how to say the crypto exchange in Japan. So. But there's still a lot of companies like the Fireblocks are working hard on how to say getting to the Japan market. They want to how to say do the custodian business in the future. But until now, there's nothing more progresses on that part. So one more thing, if you are a project, you want to sell your token. You are a project. You want to sell your token to the Japanese investors, the retail. You need to list your token on the Japanese crypto exchange. So you need to file a lot of documents to prove that you are how to say a normal project and your token is okay, liquidity is okay, and all the things that the crypto exchange think your project is okay. They will file your how to say documents to the JVCA associate in Japan, and they are how to say they will audit all the documents and they think you're okay. Okay, you can pass, so you can how to say list your token on the Japanese regulated exchanges, and then the Japanese investors can use JPY the yen to buy your token. So it depends on what kind of projects or the company you are doing, what kind of services you want to do. It will have a lot of bottlenecks in Japan now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you already mentioned that the two bottlenecks like license and a custodial or maybe a banking. So maybe Jack, I want to have a follow-up question for you. So I know Japan is trying to loosen provide a more friendly environment to the Web3 or institution, like maybe provide a license pathway or maybe a more friendly banking and custodial situation. So what do you think about is this effective enough, or what do you think? Do you hear any local partner to share their perspective for the Japanese government's movement?
Okay, so actually I think that the regulation in Japan is quite clear. So if you follow the regulations, you can do business in Japan. And actually the JFSA, the Financial Service Agent, they are very open to, and if you want to do something, how to say, actually a lot of crypto exchanges before, they don't get licensed before, but JFSA is not like you cannot do business right now. So they how to say they want to talk with you and discuss about how can make you regulated in Japan, what kind of business you are doing now. So if you can follow this regulation or the regulators' advices, doing business about the crypto things in Japan is quite easy. But one more thing, it is hard to communicate about how to say for the overseas projects or the companies in Japan. It will be the languages and the how is the culture. Japanese government only they can hear you if you speak English, but they are prefer to like you to speak Japanese to communicate with them. And a lot of things, the regulations, they are more how to say like the Japanese local rules or something like this. You need to follow these things. So, and there's a lot of big companies in Japan. They are mega banks. They are mega, how to say, the very big institution companies. They are now in this trend. They are now getting into the blockchain and Web3 industry in Japan now. Like the many maybe someone can hear from the news that like the SMBC, they are talking with the SBI groups to issue the, how to say, the stable coins, and the MUTB, the Mitsubishi Bank, they also want to issue the stablecoin things. So something like this, a lot of, how to say, competitors, even the very large companies, they are getting to this company now, this industry now. So it is very hard for a startup to do things, but if you can, how to say, using Japanese to communicate with the local banks, the local partners, it will be very good. Like the Circle, they are partner with the SBI, so they get the USDC regulated in in this year, but they still need to, how to say, work about 22 months to work through the whole process of the USDC regulated in Japan. It's very hard, but if once you get regulated, it will be very easy to do business in Japan.
Gotcha. Then I will want to give the same question to maybe Jacelynn and Chloe, since you both work in quite similar the business coverage like Hong Kong and Singapore. So want to know maybe from the Hong Kong's perspective or maybe the Singapore perspective for the same question. Is this effective or not, or what does your local partner share anything around the regulation, the movement?
Yeah, I think for Singapore and Hong Kong, they're kind of like easier to navigate because everything is really written. Everything is, and we don't have the language barrier like Japan would have. So that is already something that, it's a blessing. I think what is important in Singapore is that even when regulators go to you and they interview you for, possible licensing and things like that, they're actually also trying to learn. Yeah. So most importantly is to be very collaborative, because most importantly, what they want to know is what you're actually doing. They're not trying to find fault with you. They're just trying to know, how this space actually works. Because for them, they've been in the very Web2 world for the longest time. They do not understand about Web3 and how they can actually use some part of Web2 to help digest and make sure that, the mass population in the country itself actually understand why they are going towards the regulating Web3. Right? As regulators, I think they do have that point where they need to make sure that they answer to the mass public as well. So as long as, you give them proper information and you don't hide certain things from them, you try to be, be on their side to help them understand and give them more knowledge, they'll be more than happy to, partner with you as well. So I think for Singapore and Hong Kong, thankfully, it's very straightforward. Maybe I just add on to like some of the countries in Southeast Asia, for example, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam. I think those countries are the ones that are a bit more complex, because a lot of times the government, they may be asking for partnerships as well. But also it is not properly written and stated as public as what Hong Kong and Singapore is doing. So a lot of times you may need to rely on the different blockchain associations, because those are the associations that work very, very closely with the government. And they would actually provide the government with special information from other countries as well, what they have learned. So those are the things that we kind of need to take note of when we navigate this regulatory landscape in Asia.
Yeah, I think I agree. So there's two type of countries right now. So one is like Hong Kong, Singapore. They already have very clear regulations. So like Jacelynn said, the most important is just be collaborate. And most of the time when they have the regulation come out, they just have the principle. So each company and each business is quite different. There's no one rule fit for all. So maybe there's something need some more explanations, and there are different interpretations. So maybe the current rule does not exactly work for your business, but the government definitely is willing to hear your opinion. So once you explain to them that's your business, that's your plan, and then how you can take reasonable steps. So that's the two magical words in working all the jurisdictions. So the government, the regulators, they don't expect you, or if you can, that would be great, but they don't expect you to be 100% satisfy all the requirements they have. The most important thing is you take reasonable steps, so that to prove that you try your best to comply with those rules. So most of the time, once you show that, you'll be much easier to communicate and for them to understand your business. And then the second tier is for the countries that does not have a clear regulation, like Australia, where I'm currently basing. There's no proper licensing at the moment. But one good thing is the government normally issues a consultation paper. That's where you can participate and have your voice in those what the regulation will be. I remember the last consultation paper, and then the first time I saw it, I just told the Austrian guy, there's no way any company can comply with this because it's very, very follow what the TradFi. They just sweep the Swift system to apply everything to the Web3, which does not work at all. So when they have the consultation paper in, is the best time for the company to participate, have your voice in, and tell them how this industry work and how the regulation should be, and so that when the regulation do come in, you don't get surprised.
Okay. Yes. Perhaps I have to wrap out this panel since time flies, even though I want to talk more. But thanks for having you guys here, and thanks for you guys having us here. So if you want to reach out to each panelist, we are happy to talk more for sure. So thanks you guys. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.